Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it brings me so much joy to stand in this honorable House in total support of the 2020-2021 budget estimates as presented by the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, this year's budget comes on the heels of a very challenging time worldwide. All evidence would suggest that there will be a global economic shutdown during 2020 and even in the medium term. We have seen a number of countries cut salaries. We have seen millions of persons losing their jobs. We have seen countries grapple with the tightening of their fiscal space. We have seen the quality of lives of so many persons significantly deteriorate, Mr. Speaker. And even while we battle in these challenging times, this government remains committed to the delivery of services and are able to present a budget that not only supports the provision of public goods, but also our productive sectors, our vulnerable, our youth, the private sector, and also non-traditional sectors. Mr. Speaker, the theme of this year's budget shows exactly where we are heading: the road to dynamic Dominica, fostering economic resilience. This budget, without a shadow of a doubt, presents a roadmap for achieving long-term economic resilience. Mr. Speaker, given the impacts on living standards brought about by the pandemic, it became critical to ensure that livelihoods are stabilized. This government has done just that, and this budget is just a continuation of that process. And bear in mind, we have done this while not defaulting on any of our debt, not having to send any public officers home, and not cutting salaries like some of our regional governments have done. And that, Mr. Speaker, is very commendable. Mr. Speaker, I took some time to read the budget presented by the Honorable Prime Minister very carefully. And I must say that any rational thinking citizen in this country would be very impressed with the contents of that presentation. What strikes me the most, Mr. Speaker, is that this presentation places great emphasis on the empowerment of our young people. A number of initiatives will come on stream in this financial year, which will empower our citizens and adequately prepare them to take on greater roles in our country's development, while at the same time developing them as individuals. So we are not just seeing allocations for housing, health, public works, and agriculture, but this budget also seeks to maximize our full potential in other areas such as the blue and green economy, the digital economy, entrepreneurship, innovation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this budget has something for everyone at every level. And our preoccupation in this budget and budgets to come is to create opportunities for our citizens, create an enabling environment for growth, and ultimately raise the standard of living of our people. Mr. Speaker, any person who says otherwise is just ignorant and do not have the interest of the people at heart. This is what differentiates this government from the people who want to be in government. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that government did an excellent job in the first half of 2020. So what we see now is a transition from stabilization to economic empowerment. Mr. Speaker, many of the measures this government implemented are targeted to develop our productive sectors. And by productive sectors, I'm referring to our agriculture, our construction, our manufacturing, our tourism. Mr. Speaker, there's a direct relationship between the productive sectors and overall country growth. So basically, when our productive sectors grow, the country grows as well. And I'm not just saying this, this is also supported by evidence, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you permit me to just briefly highlight some key evidence of this. In 2014, Mr. Speaker, Dominica was able to achieve growth of 4.45%. This was highly attributed to growth in tourism and construction, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, we saw a similar trend. We achieved growth of 2.56%. This was led by agriculture. In 2018, Mr. Speaker, construction blossomed. and we saw growth of 2.26%, Mr. Speaker. In 2019, we did an excellent job. We achieved growth of 5.66%. And again, all the productive sectors play important roles in this, Mr. Speaker. So the evidence clearly shows that our productive sectors are the way to go, Mr. Speaker. And this government, we are driven by facts and science and a clear understanding of what is needed. This is why we support the productive sector, Mr. Speaker. This commitment was reflected in measures implemented throughout the financial year, especially in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Speaker, please permit me to just highlight a few measures and estimates in these key sectors. Agriculture, we saw unconditional cash transfers to provide immediate support to crop and livestock farmers. This included the provision of planting material, inputs such as fertilizer, small farming equipment, and animal feed. We saw the increase in acreages and export of fresh produce and the development of banana and vegetable industries. These support initiatives trickled down into the economy, Mr. Speaker, and touched the lives of not just the beneficiary, but his entire household. And this is what we want, Mr. Speaker, to boost our local economy and to help people earn a livelihood and increase the standard of living. Mr. Speaker, I'm from a farming community, so I understand the importance of agriculture. This is why I'm happy that this government is so committed towards supporting the agriculture sector. In the new fiscal period, we will see a total of $37.1 million pumped into the sector. These funds will aim to further expand crop production to include agroforestry and vegetable and banana industries. This budget is placing great emphasis on building a sustainable fishing sector and also building the required infrastructure to facilitate the sector. Mr. Speaker, we have not forgotten our livestock farmers. $1 million is allocated to support the sector and ensure farmers get the much needed support to increase their output and earn decent livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to ensure food security, especially at a time when the supply chain is faced with so many challenges. Construction. Government has implemented several high-value infrastructural projects which the Public Works Minister have alluded to yesterday. The impact of this project is astronomical, Mr. In this year's budget, we see an allocation of $71.01 million, Mr. Speaker, about 60% of which will be directly linked to the construction sector. This means work for our small contractors, sale for entrepreneurs that offer building materials, rental of heavy equipment, and jobs for our Dominican citizens. In this fiscal period, we will see the improvement of multiple road networks all across Dominica. Mr. Speaker, we can't underestimate the importance of having improved roads. I can highlight numerous benefits of having improved access, such as reducing vehicle operating costs, reducing travel time, and other economic impacts. But most important to this government is the safety of our citizens. Mr. Speaker, you may have driven the Cockman Road recently. This is the kind of infrastructural improvement this government is known for. We will see the improvement of multiple networks, which will truly boost our structural resilience. Mr. Speaker, this year's budget again shows this government's commitment to ensuring that its citizens are able to have affordable shelter. We will see the continuation of government's aggressive housing program. We will see the construction of well over 550 new homes. Mr. Speaker, we should not underestimate the value of comfortable housing and a good night's sleep. Safe, comfortable housing immediately improves a person's quality of life. And this government, being the caring government that it is, continues to invest in ensuring that every Dominican can have a good night's sleep and don't worry about getting wet. Over $117.4 million is allocated to provide decent housing for our citizens. We continue to make progress towards the attainment of our goal of building 5,000 climate-resilient homes. This budget makes an allocation for this, as well as the housing program in the Kalinago territory with funding from the EU, where 50 new homes will be constructed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, tourism continues to be one of the sectors with the greatest potential. However, it was one of the hardest hit sectors in the last 6 months. Government is cognizant of this and has allocated $6.3 million in this year's budget to undertake capital investments in the sector. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we all know the value of marketing. Many media houses have identified Dominica as one of the most beautiful countries to visit. And we are not just going to relax and get complacent. While we develop our local tourism product, we will also boost our marketing efforts. Mr. Speaker, this budget allocates $13 million to support that strategy. Mr. Speaker, in order to build a wealthy nation, it is imperative that we make improvements in healthcare, and this commitment is reflected in this budget. Over the last financial year, we saw significant improvements in the provision of primary health care, as well as the efficiency in the delivery of services. This government will further seek to implement online medical services and patient care. Mr. Speaker, this is just testimony of how communication technology can be used to enhance the delivery of services. This government has shown time and time again that it is committed to empowering our young people. And this commitment is further reflected in this year's budget. We are now making it easier for young people of this country to own a piece of land and to build a home. We know that the cost of purchasing land may be a deterrent, so we have reduced the fees on the purchase or transfer of land from 10.5% to 5.5% to make it easier for our people to own homes. Mr. Speaker, this budget provides a facility of $4 million to support small and medium-sized enterprises. There is scientific evidence that a thriving private sector has significant impacts on country growth. And this is why we see it fit to make this facility available to empower our small businesses. The expectation is to support our agro-processors, our vendors, our small contractors, and the catering industry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is part of a 3-year, $30 million program. This budget also touches on the manufacturing sector. The intention is to address key areas that reduce our competitiveness. The cost of packaging and labeling are one of these factors. So what we have done in this new fiscal period is eliminate VAT and import duties on the purchase of packaging items so that the producer can spread the savings across his business and become more competitive. Mr. Speaker, this government will continue to create an enabling environment for small businesses to thrive. We have provided financial support, technical support, and a number of concessions. Mr. Speaker, the development of sports is dear to my heart. This government has ensured that our sporting facilities are upgraded and conducive to resume sport activities. We budgeted $2.3 million towards the infrastructural and lighting upgrade at the Windsor Park Stadium. Mr. Minister, I am certain that you can't wait to see international cricket at the stadium once again. We will develop an avenue with international standards to provide for our athletes. I speak of the National Indoor Sports Complex, Mr. Speaker. $2.5 million will be spent to advance works at this facility. This country is well known for its sportsmen and women, and this government will continue to invest in the future of our athletes. Mr. Speaker, this all-inclusive budget delivered by the Honorable Prime Minister also outlines a number of sustainable initiatives in other critical sectors, such as education, the energy sector, trade, disaster preparedness, environment, and governance. My colleagues will detail these areas. Mr. Speaker, I would like to place on record my commendations to our broadcasters, particularly during this pandemic. I recall instances where persons have indicated to me that they look forward to hearing our regular updates, and these updates help them to remain calm and eliminated all unwanted fears. Mr. Speaker, access to reliable information continues to play a critical role in our development. Key in the delivery of such information is the Government Information Service and the Dominica Broadcasting Services. And some of our staff of these two entities are here with us today, and I don't think that we appreciate the work that they do, Mr. Speaker. I must commend them for their efforts. Over the last fiscal year, GIS continued to effectively and broadly disseminate information. Mr. Speaker, though still in the genesis of my responsibility of broadcasting, I can already identify with attainment of some of the goals outlined in my ministry strategic plan 2019-2020. GIS nightly news package has become one with high viewership and one which is anticipated for timely, inclusive, accurate information. We continue to undertake live broadcasts and produce shows across social media platforms such as YouTube and Facebook, reaching people not only in Dominica but across the entire globe. The ministry has also introduced several new features to the GIS program menu, to include Insight, which is a weekly program highlighting the implementation of government policies and programs and the work of the government ministries and departments. In Depth is a 15-minute weekly documentary highlighting government projects. In the Studio is a half-an-hour production hosted by Dion Durant, focusing on government's plans, policies, programs, and projects. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, we have sought to build the capacity of our staff in the reporting on disasters. We have also achieved the following: training in social media productions through the British High Commission in Barbados for 2 members of our staff, a 6-week program in public speaking and customer service for 5 of our staff through the University of the West Indies. Staff training in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals through UNESCO in St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, in the 2020-2021 budget, we have made allocations for retooling and capacity building of the staff of the GIS, the digital upgrade and modernization of the GIS equipment to include cameras, editing equipment, computers, and lighting, to the tune of $200,000. An additional $141,000 has been allocated for operations and maintenance of the GIS facilities at Bath Estate. These interventions by the government will allow for greater efficiency, higher quality of productions from the GIS department. Our goal, Mr. Speaker, is to achieve high quality and improve content. Mr. Speaker, the Dominica Broadcasting Corporation is approaching a significant milestone, 50 years of existence. Within that time, it has enhanced its reputation as being an information pillar in Dominica and attracts one of the highest listenership. I must commend the station for a significant contribution during the fight against COVID-19. The station aired promos in a variety of languages, covered weekly press briefings from the Ministry of Health, and altered its normal programming to broadcast our required protocols. Mr. Speaker, we will seek to strengthen the station's outside broadcast capabilities while concurrently implementing a Go Green initiative by adopting paperless programming. Now more than ever, we have to embrace connectivity and technology to drive our growth efforts and socio-economic well-being. The ministry responsible for telecommunications have collaborated with multiple stakeholders in ensuring that Dominica is well positioned with the required services our development push warrants. Mr. Speaker, the financial year 2019-2020 brought about many success stories for telecommunications. The initial step in this first involves building a robust and resilient high-capacity fiber network which is connected every government site across the country, including government offices, schools, police, and fire stations. This is just testimony of this government's foresight. The outcome of these significant investments in telecommunication infrastructure is that there are now 224 facilities with access to connectivity, which is inclusive of 70 schools, Mr. Speaker. We are not only interested in ensuring the delivery of public services, we know that in this era, the effects of climate change are becoming more and more prevalent. All aspects of livelihoods are conducted online, and so it has become imperative that efforts be made to ensure island-wide residential connectivity. So even if government is not mandated to provide individual connections, we see it necessary at this time to intervene. And because one of the fundamental principles of this government is that access to broadband should become a basic human right. And as such, failure to provide such service will be treated as a human rights violation. This is what I'll be pursuing at the regional level, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have sought to resolve the ongoing issues of internet access in certain communities around Dominica. Through the regulator, a request for proposals was issued to service providers. The regulator has received bids from the service providers, and after review, one has been selected. Further negotiations are ongoing to ensure the optimum value is delivered. We expect to conclude this by July 31st, 2020, and a contract will be awarded immediately after. These communities will form part of our initial drive to ensure island-wide coverage, and I'm happy, as Minister responsible for telecommunications, to see that we can finally end a 3-year absence of broadband service, especially for our friends on the North and the East Coast. Government is fully on board with this venture. Mr. Speaker, as is the case with every policy stance, the required legislative framework is critical to ensure success. Legislation is required not only to protect and ensure our consumers get quality service and value for money, but also it is required to create an enabling environment for our transition into digital Dominica. Telecommunications will play an active role in the digital transformation process. The telecommunications component will be implemented on a regional scale where Dominica stands to benefit significantly. This component includes the removal of legal and regulatory barriers to innovation, investment, and competition by modernizing the telecoms framework that will create the ideal environment for a transition into a digital space. Mr. Speaker, the communication technology sector is one of the fastest growing sectors. I speak of platforms, applications, devices that we used once a few years ago have now become obsolete. A lot of things have changed and will continue to change, and this warrants an updated legal framework. The current legal framework is 2 decades old, and in my respectful view, this legislation needs updating. So ultimately, Dominica and the other ECTEL member states will repeal the outdated telecommunications framework of 2000 and replace it with a new electronic communications framework, which will comprehensively address a number of pertinent issues. Mr. Speaker, we are in the final stages of drafting this new piece of legislation, and it will be promulgated across all ECTEL member states before the end of the year. What is also welcoming about this new revised EC legislation, Mr. Speaker, is that it will be accompanied with a number of other associated regulations, all of which will safeguard the interests of all Dominican citizens. A few of these regulations will include the Roaming Services Regulation. This piece of regulation will seek to address the issue of exorbitant roaming rates in the region. This is one of the issues that cause many inconveniences while traversing the region, and it is our intention to examine this with the goal of implementing fairer rates. The Retail Tariff Regulation. The service providers must not only grant access, but also make the service affordable. We conducted a very comprehensive study in which the rates charged by the telecommunication providers in Dominica was reviewed, and a strong case was made to modify the tariff regime. Mr. Speaker, this is another burning issue which I believe can be addressed through regulation. Mr. Speaker, there will also be quality of service regulations. In this modern age of technology, where work is done from home using online applications, it would be inconceivable that the internet keeps dropping. An attachment takes forever to download. Time is money, and poor quality of service can translate into significant losses for users. We will also see net neutrality regulations, Mr. Speaker. This is a principle that internet service providers must treat all internet communications equally and not discriminate or charge differently based on the user, the content, website, the platform, the equipment, or even the method of communication. Mr. Speaker, this comprehensive work plan will also support the development of financial services, specifically non-bank digital payment products and services. Leadership will be provided by the ECCB in coordination with the national level financial service regulators. We will also seek to update the Payment System Act and the Money Services Act. A very important aspect of this work plan is cybersecurity and data protection given this COVID-19 era. We have seen significant traffic online, and a lot of personal information are now being published on the internet. This means greater threats from potential hackers. So we will update and review the protocols and standards for cybersecurity in the region. The ministry responsible for telecommunication has drafted a cybersecurity policy which will fit directly into this regional component. Furthermore, we have commenced a process of zero rating of websites to facilitate everyday citizens. I am sure that we all have heard about the digital currency piloted by the ECCB. Mr. Speaker, the intention is to zero rate such websites so our citizens can use these platforms to conduct transactions at zero cost. This is where we are heading, Mr. Speaker. The opportunities are endless, especially as it relates to fintech. Mr. Speaker, we have successfully implemented mobile number portability, and we are in the advanced stages of approving for fixed number portability. Consumers are now able to keep their current mobile number when switching from one telecommunication service provider to another. This significantly reduces the inconvenience of changing one directory listings, business cards, or outdoor signage. Our aim in the telecommunication sector is to enhance access for all, protect our users, and enhance the capacity of our talent. All these things, Mr. Speaker, have been documented to increase social economic well-being. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with government's policy to develop the telecommunication and information technology sector, government, in collaboration with the government of India, will be restoring and upgrading all services at the ICT Center of Excellence at the Dominica State College. The center will be further upgraded with modern state-of-the-art equipment to facilitate expansion of services to rural communities where satellite center has been established. Full commitment have been received from the Indian government to recommence operations and resume an aggressive push to develop our ICT talent. Mr. Speaker, $165,000 is allocated in this year's budget to rehabilitate and resume operations at the center. Mr. Speaker, government continues to cater for young talent through initiatives such as the development of rural centers, which will complement schools where students and teachers and persons who require access to learning can be accommodated. In addition to the work undertaken at the Grand 4 and Naples Smart Centers, government intends to furnish 6 additional smart centers, which will be built in the following locations: the Northeast Comprehensive School, the Casibru Secondary School, the Kalinago Territory, the Portsmouth Secondary School, the Isaiah Thomas Secondary School, and the Grand Bay Secondary School. $500,000 is allocated in this year's budget for that specific purpose. Mr. Speaker, this government continues to enhance its post-disaster telecommunications mechanisms. We have successfully increased resilient infrastructure, which includes the running of fiber underground, which has many advantages as it pertains to disaster recovery. The vulnerability of the telecommunications sector is visible following Hurricane Maria, when the sector experienced a total of $128.8 million in total damages. So emergency telecommunication systems, such as the use of VSATs or amateur radio systems, are considered the backbone of our post-disaster response and a significant component of making this sector more resilient. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, this government has installed 20 VSATs across Dominica, and an allocation of $200,000 has been made available in this year's budget to procure backup generators to ensure a greater level of infrastructural resilience. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to report to this Honorable House that in collaboration with the International Telecommunications Union, government has provided another layer of communications resilience. This is through the installation and deployment of a standalone radio messaging system. This network was officially launched on Friday, June 19, 2020 by the government of Dominica, with assistance from the technical radio experts at the ITU in conjunction with the engineering staff of the Ministry of Telecommunications. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the government and people of Dominica, I wish to take this opportunity to place on official record government's gratitude to the ITU for partnering with us to develop such an important network in such a critical time. Mr. Speaker, government has also developed an innovative community Wi-Fi network for post-disaster response in coordination with the UNDP and the ODM. This network was officially built and installed in 3 areas: Good Hope, Belleville-Chope, and the ODM. We undertook a pilot where we used satellite-based services to provide Wi-Fi services. From all reports, that went well, and we are now in the monitoring and evaluation phase where we'll make a decision as to how we proceed with this network. Mr. Speaker, so much is happening and will continue to happen all across Dominica. Perhaps I can zoom in to my community, Penville. I am convinced, Mr. Speaker, that the people of this area is some of the most appreciative and supportive people. Mr. Speaker, this government continues to take care of the elderly and vulnerable among us. These are the persons who once made a serious contribution to our growth and development, and it's just fitting that we take the time to take care of these persons through our social programs and the provision of essential services. Government has also completed the rehabilitation of community roads, such as the Judith-Penville Link Road, while emphasis is also placed on the clearing of farm access roads. We have also developed the agricultural sector through a construction of an irrigation project and the supply of inputs, which will no doubt increase the production of food. Our farmers are very grateful. We continue our aggressive housing interventions. The quality of housing in the area has been dramatically improved, Mr. Speaker. Primary healthcare will receive a boost with the completion of the healthcare facility at Vickers and Penville, which will be completed in September. Many youths continue to benefit from our scholarship programs to attend universities, Mr. Speaker. This government sees education as a path to prosperity for these youths. The Vickers Multipurpose Resource Center is beginning to transform the entire village, especially the area called Abamago. Mr. Speaker, our NEP is one of the hardest working teams around Dominica, and will continue to support the NEP. I must commend the various supervisors, Mr. Speaker, and the experience gained by the NEP in various sectors is so valuable. The NEP continues to serve its purpose. A lot is happening in the area, Mr. Speaker. There is an overall development plan for the area. This plan will seek to address the certain areas: the empowerment of youths and women, small business development, the development of our non-traditional sectors such as music and sewing, the enhancement of our sport facilities and the implementation of sports initiatives, increasing employment opportunities. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to the start of the construction of the Thibault Primary School. $250,000 has been allocated in this year's budget to advance this project. I will also like to place on record my sincere gratitude to the government of Dominica, and in particular, one of the hardest working PAREPs, the hardest working PAREP this country has ever seen. Mr. Speaker, before I end, please permit me to acknowledge the hard work done by our first responders, our Ministry of Health, led by a very competent minister and our visionary leader. Over the last few months, we have witnessed excellent leadership. We did such an excellent job, Mr. Speaker, that we were recognized among the top 15 best recovering countries worldwide. That in itself is very commendable. At this juncture, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the Almighty Father for granting me the fortitude for this assignment, to which I have fully committed myself. I wish to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for his constant foresight, his wisdom, his guidance, which continue to aspire his team to deliver successfully on the imperatives which we have articulated. I would like to thank my family and my entire community of Penville for the love and the support shown in this short time. To the village councils, the respective village councils, the school principals, the sports teams, the farmers, and especially, I just want to thank everybody for their support. I wish to thank my cabinet colleagues for their collaboration and partnership. To my hardworking and competent team, my permanent secretary, Ms. Gloria Joseph, Director of Telecommunications, Mr. Bennett Thomas, the Director of GIS, Mr. Daryl Titt, the Manager of DBS, Mr. Cecil Joseph, the Chairman of DBS Board, the Chairperson and the Executive Director of the NTRC, Ms. Karen Prevost, and Mr. Craig Nesty, respectively. All the hardworking and committed staff of the Ministry of Telecommunications and Broadcasting, the service providers, all the broadcasters, I say a hearty thank you for your service to this government and to the citizens of Dominica. Mr. Speaker, there is evidence of positive this government is doing. There is evidence that our team is highly competent. There's evidence that our team has far better leadership. There's evidence that our team cares more about people than any political party. There's evidence that Dominicans will have a better future under this government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I wholeheartedly support this budget as presented by the Honorable Prime Minister.